It's 4 o'clock. The top stories on 7 News. A shooting in broad daylight in Sydney's CBD, the brave bystanders that jumped into action. An outpouring of grief as the community, friends and police mourn the loss of Jesse Baird and Luke Davies. And when Australians can expect the Stage 3 tax cut benefits to be passed on.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good afternoon. There's been another Sydney shooting, this time in the city centre. An elderly man wounded, another arrested at an office on Castlereagh Street. Jodie Lee is there. Jodie, what happened in the city today?
Good afternoon, Anne. Well, this took place inside the office of a law firm on the 9th floor of this building on Castlereagh Street that also houses the Greek consulate. We understand that two men, both aged in their 70s, were involved in some kind of disagreement before one man has shot the other in the groin. Office workers, quick-thinking office workers, then sprung to action. Some of them administered first aid to the victim, while others restrained the alleged gunman until police arrived.
The people inside the office were very brave. They restrained the offender until police arrived.
What type of firearm was used?
It was a small calibre semi-automatic pistol.
The victim is this afternoon being treated at the nearby St Vincent's Hospital, but we do understand he's in a stable condition. As for the alleged gunman, he is with detectives at Day Street Police Station, but is so far proving uncooperative. We don't yet know what the relationship between these two men is, but no doubt that will form a key part of the police investigation. Anne?
Jodie Lee reporting from the city. Thank you, Jodie. There's been a fresh outpouring of grief and heartache following the discovery of the bodies of Sydney couple Jesse Baird and Luke Davies. Floral tributes continued to grow outside Mr Baird's Paddington home, where the two men were murdered, and a vigil was held in their memory overnight. Robert Avadia reports.
Well, it's now 9 days since police allege Jesse Baird and Luke Davies were shot dead in this Paddington terrace behind me. Their bodies were found yesterday, and that sense of finality has been a crushing blow, not only for their friends and families, their neighbours here, but also the wider gay community in the eastern suburbs. We still see a constant stream of mourners here to pay their respects. The floral tributes are growing, not only from people who are friends, but equally people who didn't know the gentleman but are just so affected by what happened.
We have kids just a little bit older than these guys, so it's just tragic. Parents with broken hearts.
Also affected by this, of course, is the New South Wales police force. This has come as an enormous shock. It is hurtful to many of them, and in the words of an inspector, they wanted to demonstrate with this investigation, with getting a result from the family, that what Beau Lamar Condon is alleged to have done does not represent the force.
It sends a shiver right throughout the whole of the New South Wales police force. They don't expect one of their own to commit an alleged murder, but at the end of the day, they do their job, and they demonstrated that by being so dedicated to this search and finding the bodies.
In tandem with the homicide investigation is a critical incident investigation where police investigate police. Here, a police officer is alleged to have murdered two men. The critical incident investigation will examine not so much what happened here, but why it happened and how it could have been prevented. That will include looking into Beau Lamar Condon's background.
Thanks, Rob. Cost of living relief has been locked in for households after the government's Stage 3 tax cuts passed the Senate last night. Political reporter Ben Downey reports on the change and when taxpayers will receive the benefits.
Not until July 1 will Australians see changes in their pay packets, but the government is hoping voters will reward it at the ballot box this weekend, with the cuts passed in time for the Dunkley by-election. The Melbourne seat is precisely the middle Australian area both the government and opposition are targeting. Under the changes, each voter earning less than $150,000 will be better off than under the original coalition plan, with all taxpayers, even those on high incomes, set to receive a cut. With any earnings between $18,000 to $45,000 taxed at 16% instead of 19%, and earnings from there up to $135,000 taxed at 30% instead of 32.5%. It's a prospect the Greens nor the opposition wanted to stand in the way of, waving the changes through the Senate last night, around a month after the Prime Minister broke his election promise that they wouldn't be changed.
People know that this was not an easy decision, but it was the right decision done for the right reasons. And it's good economic policy as well.
Australians will be very pleased to receive whatever they can in their pockets right now, but they won't forgive the Prime Minister for the lie that he's told more than 100 times since the election.
Independent Senators Bob Katter and Andrew Wilkie took a different approach to the cost of living crisis this morning, dressing as pigs representing Coles and Woolworths with their snouts in the trough, while pitching draft legislation that would see the supermarket's power reduced. The Prime Minister pivots now directly to the by-election mode, with recent polling showing the opposition is gaining ground in Dunkley.
Labor have slammed the former government for pork barrelling following a damning Auditor-General report. A review into the $5 billion West Invest program funded by the sale of WestConnex found the fund lacked integrity and projects were chosen based on political reasoning rather than merit.
They had bungled that program and turned it into another pot for pork barrelling.
The former Treasurer, who was given authority to choose the projects, has rejected the claims. Prince William has pulled out of an event at the last minute due to a mysterious personal matter. As Hugh Whitfield reports, the heir to the throne missed a memorial service at Windsor Castle for his late godfather.
The Prince of Wales was due to give a reading at the memorial service for King Constantine of Greece, who was also Prince William's godfather. His absence, though, has only been explained by Kensington Palace as being due to a personal matter. We understand it's not due to the death of Thomas Kingston, the husband of one of William's distant cousins, Lady Gabriella Windsor. It's also unclear whether William couldn't attend due to his wife's ongoing recovery from abdominal surgery. The Princess of Wales is said to be doing well, but Adelaide Cottage, where they live with their 3 children, is not far from Windsor Castle. Queen Camilla was in effect the host for the day, the King continuing his cancer treatment, having returned to London, but a fair smattering of European royals, including the Spanish King and Queen and VIPs from around the world. In the spotlight, though, the Duke and Duchess of York, Prince Andrew alongside his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. They still live together. They were leading the royal family pack into St George's Chapel. We are told, though, they were attending in a private capacity.
In breaking news, it's just been revealed the organisers of the Mardi Gras have reached a compromise with police about this year's march. Police will march in this year's parade, but have agreed not to march in uniform. It follows days of discussion after the murders of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies in Paddington last week, allegedly by a member of the New South Wales Police Force. Angie Asimus joins us now with the latest on Sydney's weather. Hi there, Angie. It is warming up.
And temperatures are certainly climbing and heatwave warnings are in place for New South Wales and the ACT. This is the warning map from tomorrow through to Saturday. A low-intensity heatwave spans most of the state except for the southwest, where a cool change will arrive tonight. And we have a severe heatwave to impact this pocket a little bit further north, shown in yellow. Sydney, not quite there yet. We reached a top of 29 degrees this afternoon. That is several above average. Certainly the focus for our state so far has been much further inland. 44 degrees at Wilcannia today, 41 for Griffith, 38 at Parkes and 35 at Tamworth. That tongue of heat is continuing to track east. A high over the Tasman is slow moving, just allowing that hot air mass to build and spread. Temperatures will likely peak late in the day tomorrow. So it'll be a long, warm night in the lead up to that. A low of 23 degrees expected at Bondi, 22 for Parramatta, 21 at Richmond. I'll have tomorrow's full forecast a little bit later, Anne.
See you then, Angie. Thank you. Still to come in Sydney's afternoon news on 7, Western Sydney on alert. A new measles case sparks concern. Passengers miraculously escape a helicopter crash, the heartbreaking phone call. And how climate change could be impacting the temperature in your suburb.
Tonight in 7 News, a daylight shooting in Sydney CBD. Tributes for Jessie Baird and Luke Davies and shock new details about the alleged killer. Tax cuts locked in, the impact on your pay. Miracle survival after a helicopter spirals out of control. And why more Australians are now retiring early. 7 News at 6.
A woman has died after being pulled unresponsive from the water northwest of Sydney. Emergency services were called to the Hawkesbury River at Bar Point this morning following reports a woman was missing after taking off in a boat. The unoccupied vessel was found at the scene, the 44-year-old woman's body nearby. Police are now investigating the circumstances surrounding her death. There's a new measles alert for Western Sydney. New South Wales Health says an infant too young to be vaccinated recently returned from Southeast Asia, where there have been outbreaks of measles. The baby was taken to Blacktown Hospital Emergency Department last Friday. Anyone who was there on that day is urged to monitor for symptoms, which include fever and a red blotchy rash. There's been a remarkable escape for 6 people on a helicopter that crashed in Colombia. The chopper had taken off on a sightseeing flight from a helipad on top of a building in Medellin when it suddenly spiralled out of control. It became wedged between the building and a telecommunications tower, one of the passengers phoning his father to say goodbye.
Dad, I just got in a helicopter crash. I'm stuck in a building and I'm really high up. I love you. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking me under your wing, Dad. I love you.
Witnesses raced to the helicopter and helped those on board escape. Gaza's health ministry says dehydration and a looming famine could start killing people within days. The situation is now so dire that desperately needed food and medicines are being parachuted in from aircraft. Here's David Woywood.
Another desperate delivery, tons of humanitarian aid falling from the sky above Gaza's southern city of Rafah, life-saving supplies from neighbouring states, frantically trying to broker an end to this violence. While we race against time to return the hostages to their families, the Emir of Qatar says we must put an end to the suffering of the Palestinian people.
My national security advisor tells me that we're close.
President Biden had raised hopes yesterday that peace was on the immediate horizon.
My hope is by next Monday we'll have a ceasefire.
Hopes quickly and publicly dashed by Israeli and Hamas negotiators, both sides ruling out an imminent deal, leaving the White House to clarify Biden's comments.
We're hopeful and cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to get this pause in place very, very soon.
In France today, US and Middle East power players met, hoping to structure a deal that would see Hamas militants free some of the dozens of hostages it holds in exchange for Israel's release of Palestinian prisoners and a 6-week halt in fighting that's cost almost 30,000 lives inside Gaza. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
At least 9 people are dead after police in Rio de Janeiro raided neighbourhoods controlled by the Red Command drug trafficking group. Local residents were left terrified, with public transport and schools forced shut for the operation. Barricades made of tyres, furniture and cars were set on fire by the alleged criminals to slow down police. A private US lunar lander that ended up on its side has beamed back pictures of the moon's unexplored polar region. These images show the cargo lander Odysseus beginning its descent, then just 30 metres above the surface, and after it touched down. The expedition marks the first time in 50 years that the US has landed on the moon. Next in 7's afternoon news, we'll have sport with McLaughlin, including NRL heavyweights touchdown in Vegas with bold predictions for the game's future. Pat Cummins reveals his Aussie 11 for the first test against the Black Caps in Wellington. And later, 30 years of the National Breast Cancer Foundation, how research has increased the survival rate.
On 7 News, pet lovers targeted by scammers. The clever con innocent families can't see coming.
Makes me feel sick, to be honest.
Plus, the common habit increasing the cost of running your car, draining your battery, cutting its life. And the solution is simple. 7 News at 6.
Let's go to sport now with Mel, and the rugby league world is converging on Vegas.
Yeah, they are, and very exciting times. NRL power brokers, ex-players and diehard fans arrived on chartered flights overnight, and the teams are based outside of Las Vegas are preparing to travel there. Jaleesa Apps has the latest.
Well, it was touchdown for the NRL here in Vegas this morning, the first of the league's official chartered flights landing here in Sin City.
It was so nice to come over here with a plane full of dedicated fans. There was a great buzz on the aeroplane.
On board the game's power brokers like Andrew Abdo and Peter V'landys, also former NRL players, and even the NRL trophy was carefully transported along with the game's most important stakeholders, the die-hard fans themselves.
I just don't know where to start. It is just going to be awesome.
Been a Rabbitoh supporter since I was 7, so it's good to see that history's being made.
The Vegas experiment is all part of a bold strategy to grow the game long term here in the States, but it is a slow burn. Just over half the tickets have sold to Allegiant Stadium.
Well, it's a long-term strategy, so it won't be an overnight thing. But to be at 35,000 tickets, I think is a good, strong signal.
The NRL is backing itself in this for the long haul, having committed to bringing the game to the States for the next 5 years.
We know Americans love American sports, but we know that there's an opportunity for rugby league to become their second, third, fourth favourite sport, especially with the time zone difference and the time of year.
Well, as for the 4 teams here in the States, they are enjoying a day off today. The Roosters, Rabbitohs and Broncos will fly into Las Vegas tomorrow, while the Seagulls will hit the training field again.
Thanks, Jaleesa. Well, the hard work in LA is done for the Roosters, who'll make their way to Vegas later tonight. The Tricolours combined nighttime ball work sessions on real grass with serious strength and conditioning at UCLA's state-of-the-art facilities.
To a drop, London.
Panther star Mitch Kenny will miss round 1 against the Storm for a social media post on Boxing Day that brought the game into disrepute. The rugged hooker is set to be hit with a $10,000 fine and 1 match ban. Australia will play the same 11 that was stunned by a Shamar Joseph-inspired West Indies at the Gabba last month in tomorrow's first test against New Zealand at the Basin Reserve in Wellington. Aussie captain Pat Cummins is not concerned by the very grassy pitch, but says he'll consider bowling if he wins the toss.
Coming from Australia, it's rare to turn on the TV and see a green wicket that looks like the turf here, but I don't think it's as scary as perhaps what it looks. Seems like there's been plenty of first inning scores that have been big.
The Kiwis have not won a home test against the Aussies since 1993. Even with a spot at the Paris Olympics on the line, the Matildas won't be parking the bus at a sold-out Marvel Stadium in Melbourne tonight. Despite a 3-goal cushion from the opening leg against Uzbekistan, the Aussies plan to deliver more free-flowing, attacking football. All-out attack is Uzbekistan's only chance of fighting their way back into the tie. It will be the Matildas' 12th home sellout in a row. Manchester City's superstar Erling Haaland scored 5 goals in a 6-2 thrashing of Luton Town in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Luton's Jordan Clark scored a screamer of a consolation goal.
Well, that's something to celebrate. Oh, that is a magnificent strike.
Yeah, not bad. Bournemouth was stunned 1-0 by second-tier side Leicester City. The Foxes scored in extra time to seal a spot in the quarter-finals. Cam Smith remains hopeful of representing Australia at the Paris Olympics, calling for common sense to prevail. With live golfers still unable to earn rankings points, Smith has tumbled from world number 2 down to 45. He is now the 3rd highest ranked Aussie behind Jason Day and Min Woo Lee. Only the top 2 go to Paris.
Yeah, it is kind of disappointing. I think we all kind of knew when we signed up that this was kind of part of it. I think if common sense prevails, we'll get some world ranking points soon enough.
The Live Tour heads to Saudi Arabia this weekend. You can stream the action live on 7+, and it's great to see Aussie fans landing in Vegas. They're so excited.
They look excited. Yeah. And go the girls tonight.
Yes,
thank you, Mel.
Thanks.
This afternoon's top stories are next, including a shooting in broad daylight in the heart of the city, those caught up in the chaos. The latest from the scene southwest of Sydney, where the bodies of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies were discovered, and how Australians are retiring early despite cost of living pressures.
Live from Sydney, 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Welcome back. Homicide detectives have wrapped up their search of the crime scene at Bungonia near Goulburn after the bodies of Sydney couple Jessie Baird and Luke Davies were discovered there. It marks a turning point as they build their case against accused killer Bo Lamar Condon. Leonie Ryan has the latest.
Good afternoon. Well, 24 hours ago, this road was closed. It has since reopened. Riot Police and the dog squad spent hours this morning searching the crime scene, trying to look for any clues against the accused killer. Jesse Baird and Luke Davies were killed. Their bodies found yesterday afternoon after their accused killer, Beau Lamar Condon, shot them both with his police-issued Glock in a Paddington terrace last week. Despite initially refusing to tell police where they were, after police searched sites at Paddington, Newcastle, Bungonia and Grays Point, he finally told them after meeting with his lawyer at Silverwater Jail, where Lamar Condon is being held on 2 counts of murder. Police raced to Bungonia and found the 2 men whose bodies were inside surfboard bags. Shortly after that, Jesse's family arrived at the crime scene to view the site. Forensic police spent all night here taking pictures and bagging evidence so they could be forensically examined. Now, everything seized today at this site will form the brief of evidence against Beau Lamar Condon when he faces court in the coming weeks.
A sea of flowers is growing in Paddington outside the home where Jesse and Luke were allegedly shot dead. Friends of the couple held a silent vigil last night at Bronte Beach, embracing one another in front of a picture of the young men. Their deaths impacting family, friends and also members of the police force. And returning to our breaking news this half hour, and organisers of the Mardi Gras have reached an agreement with police about this year's march. New South Wales Police will participate at a reduced capacity, but officers will not wear their uniforms. It follows days of discussion after Jesse Baird and Luke Davies were allegedly shot by a police officer. Police have praised witnesses who held down a gunman after a man was shot in the CBD just before 1 this afternoon. The 77-year-old victim suffered a single bullet wound to the groin while inside an office block on Castlereagh Street. When police arrived, they found a 79-year-old suspect being held down by staff members.
The people inside the office were very brave. They restrained the offender until police arrived. At this stage, he's not assisting. We don't know his full details. We're doing everything we can to work it out right now.
Police say the victim was shot with a small calibre semi-automatic pistol and was quickly treated by paramedics.
Vital signs are within normal limits. There was no active bleeding. He was urgently transported to St Vincent's Hospital with the escort of our medical retrieval team.
The victim is said to be in a stable condition and police say there is no risk to the public. There are fears Victoria's bushfire emergency could get a whole lot worse this afternoon as temperatures rise and a strong wind change moves through. Here's Blake Johnson.
We're starting to hit the danger zone weather-wise for this fire. Winds here are really starting to pick up after what was a very quiet and calm morning and early afternoon. We even had some rain around lunchtime, but this gusty wind is picking up and so too are the temperatures. They are into the 40s in the Wimmera region where fire conditions are catastrophic and gusts are expected up around the 80k mark. It is currently a north-northeasterly wind, but what concerns firefighters is the incoming wind change, sometime between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m, where it will shift to a westerly wind and could push the fire outside containment lines. The perimeter of the Bayandine Rocky Road fire is about 160 kilometres. It has been contained this afternoon, but it is still burning, and with this wind change comes the risk of lightning. About 30,000 people in towns west of Ballarat have been told to get out. It is unclear exactly how many have taken that advice, and it's been an hour-by-hour monitoring situation for firefighters, of which there are 500 on the ground and about 20 waterbombing helicopters ready to go.
What we are preparing for is if there is any movement in this fire, if it breaches control lines, we'll be actively communicating to the community about that, and that will be a watch and act, likely an emergency alert.
3 relief evacuation centres have been set up here in Ballarat, also in Ararat and Maryborough, and the Langikalkal prison, a minimum security prison, has been evacuated as a precaution.
A notorious ex-brothel owner has been extradited to Sydney. He was arrested on the Gold Coast accused of directing a major drug supply ring. Jordan Quinn was there as he was marched through the airport.
Good afternoon. He's known as one of Australia's most prolific gamblers, but now Eddie Hayson is an accused drug supplier on a commercial scale. This morning, he was extradited to New South Wales to face 3 serious charges. After being arrested on the Gold Coast yesterday, Hayson is now in the hands of New South Wales Police. He was marched through the airport before boarding a flight to Sydney.
How have the last 24 hours been?
The 55-year-old is accused of directing a criminal group supplying a commercial quantity of drugs across the country using private planes and encrypted mobile phones. Yesterday, detectives raided a Burleigh Heads apartment building, seizing a computer which will likely help police build their case. Hayson touched down in Sydney early this afternoon and is expected to face the Downing Centre local court tomorrow.
Australia has been warned to brace for many more dangerously hot days in the years to come. Latest modelling by the Climate Council suggests some Sydney suburbs could suffer almost a month of days over 35 degrees. Lucy McLeod reports from Penrith.
Well, it's 32 degrees here in Penrith today, one of the hottest suburbs in Sydney. And according to climate experts, it's days like this we'll have to start getting used to. According to new data from the Climate Council, Sydney is on its way to 3 more weeks above 35 degrees every summer.
Many places in Australia are on track to see a doubling of days over 35 degrees. Parts of Australia will become unlivable unless greater action is taken.
Unless stronger climate change action is taken by 2050, places like Richmond and Penrith will swelter through 8 more days over 35 degrees, 21 all up. The Blue Mountains, Campbelltown and Liverpool will add 6 days for a total of 13. Dubbo, Forbes and Parkes will add 16 for a total of 43. And Moree will suffer almost a month more for a total of 68 days over 35 degrees.
For me now, and I'm barely coping now.
Yeah.
I don't leave the house if it's 40, stay home.
Terribly difficult, especially for the number of people that are living in rental properties that don't have sufficient heat and cooling in their homes. And we're going to need infrastructure to keep everyone safe and well.
Tonight at 6, how you can protect yourself and your home as it starts to warm up.
It's the question we all want answered. How much do we need to retire? The cost of living crisis has seen many return to part-time work to counter inflation, with a new magic number for how much you need to survive older age. Angelique Opie has more.
Well, 40% of Australians are retiring earlier than expected. Many have enough funds to do so. Other reasons include health concerns, their job doesn't exist anymore, or they are taking on the role of carer.
Often women are the ones that are taking on the lion's share of caring responsibilities in Australia. That choice can have an impact on their financial security in retirement.
While a comfortable retirement depends for each individual, the recommendation from Australia's peak superannuation body is a single needs $595,000, $690,000 for couples. But from the cost of living squeeze, these goals aren't attainable for some, with seniors being forced to change their plans.
And some of them, they've retired and then they've realised, my gosh, my money's running out. I need to go back to work.
When it comes to financial planning, the earlier the better. The advice is forecast your income during retirement, looking at what your super and pension will be. Experts also say don't forget the power of compound interest. Starting immediately is key, even if it is just a small amount.
We'll hear from CommSec for the latest on your money next. Then, why survival rates from breast cancer have risen dramatically. Meet the D-Day War veterans honoured, 100 days out from the 80th anniversary. And it's 28 degrees in North Sydney. Angie will have our forecast soon.
One ring to rule them all. The jewellery that can save your life. Tracking sleep, heart rate and more. The future of health at home is here. See how it works. Plus, your next overseas holiday on us. Be watching to win. Start with Sunrise tomorrow morning. On 7 News, pet lovers targeted by scammers. The clever con innocent families can't see coming.
Makes me feel sick, to be honest.
Plus, the common habit increasing the cost of running your car, draining your battery, cutting its life. And the solution is simple. 7 News at 6.
The National Breast Cancer Foundation is celebrating its 30th anniversary as the country's largest non-for-profit funder of breast cancer research. CEO, Associate Professor Cleola Andries joins me now. Good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us. Now, the death rate from breast cancer has reduced dramatically over the last 30 years. It really is a stunning result.
Since 1994, when the National Breast Cancer Foundation was first established, through to today, the death rate from breast cancer in Australia has actually reduced by 40%, which, as you say, is extraordinary. But that result has been driven because of research and the fact that we've invested in research in this country and applied those research findings into clinical practice to improve outcomes.
So what are some of the key research projects that you have funded?
At the National Breast Cancer Foundation, we are incredibly proud to have invested over $200 million into over 600 research projects across the entire research continuum, from basic biology and understanding the disease through to translating research into clinical practice. Some of the really groundbreaking research that we've helped fund includes developing new treatments, particularly for women with hard to treat breast cancers, such as triple negative breast cancers, that we know tend to be a little bit more aggressive and more difficult to treat. Some of those drugs have now come onto the market and are available for use across Australia on the PBS.
Which is really quite extraordinary. What are your plans for the next 30 years?
We're building on incredibly strong foundations. We've funded 1,800 researchers across 120 research institutes in Australia. And in the next 5 years, our new Pink Horizon strategy will seek to invest a further $125 million in areas of research that really focus on ending deaths from breast cancer.
So what is the latest advice on how to prevent breast cancer?
We always encourage people to have a healthy lifestyle, to understand the importance of diet, nutrition and exercise, but particularly for women when they become eligible at 40 years and over to undertake breast screening regularly.
Well, congratulations on the milestone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Cleola Andries, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's check your finance now. It was another flat day for Aussie shares. Here's Laura Bezerati from CommSec.
Good afternoon. Well, it certainly was. The Aussie market basically ran on the spot today, ending lower by just 2 points. In fact, for 6 of the past 8 sessions, we finished fairly flat, and that's partly due to dozens and dozens of companies that have come out with half-year results, which have been mixed overall, with roughly half of the companies trading higher and half lower following their results, and that's largely left our market unchanged over the course of the month. In terms of company news, Flight Centre was under pressure today following the release of its results, despite saying they've experienced their second best start to the year. A number of other companies losing ground today were those set to pay out dividends in the coming weeks. Fortescue was one of them, paying $1.08 per share on the 27th of March. Also, towards the end of March, eligible Telstra shareholders will receive 9 cents per share, and Woolies is set to pay out 47 cents per share on the 11th of April. Finally, the Aussie dollar is slightly lower, buying 65.1 US cents. Have a lovely night.
Sydney's 6 p.m. news is coming up with Mark Ferguson. Hi there, Mark. What's on the program?
Yeah, good afternoon. And tonight, more shocking details about the murders of Jesse Baird and Luke Davies. Police have been searching for more evidence, piecing together the alleged killers' movements. At 6, the growing tribute and a vigil for the couple. Also tonight, more incredible pictures from inside that helicopter that fell from the sky in Colombia. It crashed into a phone tower, but somehow everyone survived. Inside the chopper as passengers called their loved ones. An Australian-made drug that can protect the brain after suffering a stroke. How it works and the plan to use it in hospital emergency departments. A warning for Aussie households targeted by Nigerian scammers. Victims robbed of thousands of dollars, and it's all linked to puppies. And the NRL bosses have landed in Vegas with some very important cargo. The countdown well and truly on for a special opening weekend. And those stories and plenty more tonight at 6 o'clock.
We'll see you then, Fergo. Thank you. Landslides have blocked one of the rail links to the ancient Inca citadel at Machu Picchu in Peru. Heavy rain over the weekend has caused a nearby river to overflow, flooding roads and train tracks, just missing the world-famous site. 2 people have been reported missing and 17 others hurt. This is the moment two D-Day veterans met for the first time as they were honoured for their bravery on the Normandy beaches. 99-year-old John Roberts and 98-year-old Stan Ford were presented with special plaques in Portsmouth.
8 decades ago, these men helped change history. So many shared memories, though this is the first time they've met.
After 80 years, it's a case of, what have you been doing? What have you been doing?
John Roberts and Stan Ford, D-Day veterans. They weren't much more than boys back then. June 1944, and the largest seaborne invasion force ever assembled.
The whole coast was ablaze with bombs, rockets, guns. I was lucky. One of the other destroyers next to us was torpedoed and sank within 5 minutes. I can remember bracing my knees and holding on to something just in case we were hit as well.
This summer may be the last time veterans visit Normandy for the ceremony of remembrance. For Stan, it's simply his duty.
It is an honour to go back and to be in the presence of the names of where my friends perished, where they didn't survive.
31 of his shipmates were killed by a German torpedo, and he was grievously wounded. Today, the two men were awarded plaques to add to the wall of names honoured for their part in D-Day. Comrades in arms, newfound friends.
And one of those 13 names added to the wall was a member of the Royal Australian Navy. Sub-Lieutenant Richard Peary from Melbourne was part of the first wave of the Allied invasion of Normandy. He was the first Australian to be killed on D-Day when his boat was hit by enemy shellfire. It happened on his 24th birthday. Next in 7's afternoon news, Angie will be here with your latest weather forecast.
Good afternoon, I'm Thomas Reeve in the Allcastle Homes traffic chopper. Been a busy run in both directions on the M7 through Horsley Park this afternoon, and in Homebush West have had an earlier crash that's been causing delays heading both ways. I was actually on Parramatta Road but causing delays on Homebush Bay Drive. Now clear but still feeling the pressure. Allcastle Homes, Bannaby 38 with attached 3-bedroom granny, 8 bedrooms from $629,995 on your land. allcastlehomes.com.au.
Tonight in 7 News, a daylight shooting in Sydney CBD. Tributes for Jessie Baird and Luke Davies, and shock new details about the alleged killer. Tax cuts locked in, the impact on your pay. Miracle survival after a helicopter spirals out of control. And why more Australians are now retiring early. 7 News at 6.
New York City has been blanketed by a thick layer of fog as wild weather smashes the United States. The city's famous skyscrapers all but invisible under the cloudy layers as easterly winds blew over the cool waters of Long Island Sound. Forecasters are predicting the East Coast will see warmer weather arrive in the coming days. Angie's here with our forecast now. Angie, it's going to be a hot one tomorrow.
That's right, and good afternoon to you. The last official day of summer should be a memorable one as temperatures soar up to 9 degrees above average in Sydney. Today was certainly warm but not extreme, from a low of 21 to a top of 29 in the CBD. Quite cloudy at times, but still some sunny breaks. Now, from the satellite, we have our severe heat wave warning for tomorrow. It covers all parts of the state except for the southwest, where a cool change has arrived. Most of the state to see low intensity conditions, severe conditions a little bit further north around Tamworth. Now, that change comes in the form of a cold front and trough, just going to slip across the state tomorrow and bring cooler conditions, but it will draw heat to its east ahead of it, so the heat will track northeast tomorrow. Around the capitals, that cooler change does impact the south. 27 degrees and fine for Adelaide. 25 and cloudy for both Melbourne and Hobart. The heat remains for Canberra, 34 degrees. Brisbane aiming for 31, settled, and 33 for Perth. Darwin to see a couple of storms with a top of 32. Back in the CBD, it's a warm night on the way as that heat really starts to build. 22 degrees, the forecast low. Then temperatures climb during the day, finishing up with 35 degrees under mostly sunny skies. There will be a late cool change, which may bring some showers and a storm. Now, our west tomorrow will reach a top of 39 degrees, but as we kick into Friday, conditions return closer to average, and we may even see a few showers over the weekend. Big day on the way tomorrow. More at 6, Anne.
A big burst of heat. Thank you, Angie. And that is Sydney's 4 p.m. news for this Wednesday. Mark Ferguson will bring you 7 News at 6. I'm Ann Sanders. Stay with 7 Now for the Chase Australia. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.